like to welcome my online viewers and readers of my blog, Temitope Oyewole's blog, to another edition of my exclusive interviews. In this section of my blog, I'll be featuring outstanding young men and women who have launched out and started great initiatives, which have made them to stand out from the crowd. For this reason, Temitope Oyewole's blog will be honoring them with a Standout Award, which is our own little way of appreciating them for taking such a bold step to be different and also in making a great positive difference in our society. Today with me is a young lady, a trained lawyer, a White House emerging global entrepreneur. She is the founder of Mother's Delivery Kit, a social venture which provides affordable sterile supplies for women to use at childbirth. So far since 2013 that this initiative started, the company has sold over 400,000 kits, connecting almost a million mothers and their babies. This admirable young lady is a graduate of Adepeju Oyewole University. She has excellent leadership traits and communication skills, not to mention a burning desire to be productive. She's been very helpful and working tirelessly to eradicate maternal and infant mortality by providing access to quality healthcare and skilled health attendants for women across Nigeria. This outstanding work has brought her quite a number of awards and recognition, one of which is from the former President of the United States of America, President Barack Obama, at the 2014 Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders. In 2015, she was also recognized as a young innovator at the World Innovation Summit for Health. At the end of this interview, you will be shown the clip where Barack Obama made mention of this outstanding lady. There's more to say about this lady, but I think it's best to stop at this point and welcome her to our Skype interview. It's with great pleasure that I welcome Adepeju Jaiyeoba. Thanks for honoring my invitation, Adepeju, to have this interview. I'm so grateful. Once again, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right then. Okay, let's get the ball rolling. To my first question. I've recapped some information about you, which obviously is known to the public, but would like to know more about you. So, can you just give us a bit about who Adepeju Jaiyeoba is?
Okay. I'm the second of 5 children, born to Mr. and Mrs. Mabadeje. From Ogun State. I have lived in Lagos all my life. I do not like beans. I do not know how to dance. I love plantain and I love what else? Noodles.
Okay, that's really nice to know. You've launched out in the midst of the crowd with an initiative that you so much believe in. Can you tell us what actually inspired this and the first few steps that you took to achieve this?
Okay, so you were very right when you said that I launched out in the midst of crowds, and it was not just about in the midst of crowds. I launched out when I had a very good excuse not to do anything. I launched out in a sector I was not familiar with, which is the health sector. My background is in law, and it was very strange to launch out when people see you as not having the expertise in the area that you are launching out. I would say that what informed my launching out at that time was greater than my expertise or my background training. It was basically for me about passion. And it was for me about the death of a close friend at childbirth. That changed the game for me. So maybe if my friend hadn't died at childbirth, maybe I would be doing something completely different from now. I do not know. But her death was something that touched, really home for me. It tells me that nobody is immune, to maternal death, and that, behind all the numbers that we see, 1 in 13, 1 in 100, 100,000 people dying every year, they're not just numbers. There are real people behind those numbers. And because there are real people behind those numbers, there are families affected by the deaths of each person who dies, in those statistics. For me, it was beyond just launching out in the crowd. It was about doing something to stop maternal and child mortality in Nigeria.
Okay, like I said, so what were the first few steps that you actually took to realize this dream? You know, when you knew you wanted to do something?
So one of the very first challenges I had was where. So I want to do something, but how do I even start? Which is the challenge, that a lot of young people are facing out there. They have ideas about what they want to do. It's just how to start. And the truth of the matter is that how do you start? Simply by starting. That's just the only way to start. You just start. You don't start when everything is in place. You start gradually and things fall into place. So for me, I started Brown Button Foundation and Mothers Delivery Kit, but it was about also finding out who can be my ally, who can help me out with things, who has the necessary expertise, who can make up for my own weaknesses. So that's how I started. I identified my strength, identified my weakness. Then I looked for who can also help me out, who can be my ally, who can connect me to these rural communities that we are talking about. How can I identify influencers? So after educating myself on a lot of things, I got online. I got on Facebook and searched people out, and then I saw this man. He was then a member of the House of Assembly in Ogun State, and I sent him a message about what I wanted to do and everything, and he gave me the chance and opportunity to come to his constituency, and then he leveraged all his contacts for me to do something. I knew him from nowhere. I just went on Facebook and wrote a couple of people, and he happened to write me back. And then we kicked off the relationship like that. So how do you start? Simply by taking the bold step to start. You get a lot of no's, but then it doesn't kill. And then you'd also get some years too. And those years are what count. They are the significant things in your stories.
That's a great thing. So the first few steps is just to start, yes, and then
Just that.
just start. I love that. So that means definitely on the journey you've met so many hindrances, obstacles, challenges, and everything. So while you were going on with all these things, what kept you motivated?
For me, it is about the end result. So I think in terms of the end result. And it is more about giving mothers the opportunity to watch their babies grow. And then giving babies the chance to live their potential. And that is very profound and deep for me. It keeps me going. Because I know that, you know, we cannot do everything. We can't do it all. We can't be in everywhere at the same time. We can't circulate, different kits and put up different advocacy strategies and go into every community in Nigeria. But I know that one at a time, we can actually do something. And the thought that saving one person, even if it is just one person, you know, that one person would have the opportunity to watch her baby grow. And that is something every mother should not be denied of. And then the baby would also be able to live, be able to stay alive, to live his or her potential. Potential is something I take very seriously. It's about fulfilling dreams. There are lots of people dead in the graveyard, with and buried with lots and lots of dreams that never manifested. So we do not know. It's about giving people opportunity. It's about trying your best to ensure that mothers stay alive and babies stay alive. That thought alone keeps me going. No matter the obstacle, I just keep going.
That's a great motivation, because, like you said, the end result keeps you going. No matter what happens, the end result keeps you going. So it's always good to be focused. That's very good. Now, like you said earlier, and I mentioned, you're a trained lawyer. So definitely what you're doing is out of your course of career,
Absolutely.
So did you get any form of training, either formal or informal, in order to help you in this new career?
Okay, so one of the things I did was after, of course, passion took me for a while and it still takes me, keeps pushing me. But I also understood my weaknesses and I knew that I needed to get additional knowledge in some areas, especially as I was transiting from a strictly NGO background into business. And I also had no background of business. And that's when I applied for the Mandela Washington Fellowship to get background experience in business and entrepreneurship, as well as work experience in global health. So what I did was to apply for this fellowship, and I got accepted into the fellowship. I was able to get business and entrepreneurship training from the University of Texas at Austin. And then I was now opportuned to work with the United Nations Foundation, in their global health team, especially their Mobile Alliance for Maternal Action team, across different countries like Nepal, South Africa, where they were also working at the time I was with them. So that really gave me some kind of exposure into the field work of global health. I also worked with PAT, which is a leader in global innovations and healthcare. So those experiences really pushed me to keep going and then helped improve my knowledge of the healthcare systems and trainings.
Sorry, and I just want to ask you a question. You said you work with all this organization. Were you paid or was it a voluntary stuff?
No, it wasn't a voluntary stuff. So for the United Nations Foundation, it was part of the Mandela Washington Fellowship team because I had requested to have work experience. And so the fellowship would pay me, but my work was with the United Nations Foundation.
Just to mention something, so if someone's case is quite actually different from yours, if they don't have this opportunity that you do have, so it's, I think one can suggest that if they can't get a paid employment in that area, they can look for something voluntary in that area as well, just to.
In addition to that, like I tell most people, I know not everybody will have the opportunity to go the way I went, but I also know that you can. Like I told one of my friends, she wanted to do something on autism. Knowledge and experience is important in that area. You need to go online. For instance, you could go on the MOOC courses. You could do Coursera. You could look for related just to improve your knowledge in that regard. It's not only about going for training. I read books. I run different training programs online that can also help improve my knowledge. So you could also do that. Get on EDX, get on Coursera, get on Harvard X, and get additional qualifications to enhance your knowledge in the field where you are working.
Yeah, I understand better now. Now, on the journey so far, you would have learned so many things. So, can you just share with us some of the things you have learned?
One of the very first thing I learned actually was I never let your degree restrict you. Because many times we think that we have an idea comes to us and we think that, oh, because you are not in that field, you would not either be taken seriously or people will, or it might not really go well and go far. The truth of the matter is that you really never know until you start, until you do it. So I could have just limited myself. When I had the idea of Brown Bottom Foundation, I actually spoke to a friend who was also a lawyer about it. And she said, oh, you know what, we should just continue with the law. That's not our field. Let's just face our field and things like that. But I now found out that, because it was my own vision and my own idea, I just needed to just go on with it. And that's exactly what I did. Many times we let our degrees limit us. Many times we let our background limit us. Many times we even let our grades limit us. We think that because we have made a first class, only Shell is good enough for us. Only NMPC is good enough for us. Meanwhile, there are other areas that we can actually thrive and do excellently well in. But we are not even willing to go below, our set standards, until when maybe push comes to shove and then we've looked for work for like 5, 6, 7 years. And then that's when we now say, okay, so what else can I do? Degrees should never limit us. Education is important. It's key, especially in your thought process, in your when you are educated, an educated carpenter is different from a non-educated carpenter. The way the furniture maker who is educated is going to put together the piece that you are talking about, he knows where you are coming from, he knows where you are going, he has a better understanding. His thought process and reasoning is going to be completely different, with due respect to those who are uneducated in the field of furniture making and stuff like that. This is just an example, but I know you understand what I'm trying to say here. Never let your degree limit you. You would always be outstanding and you would always strive. Just never let your degree limit you. So that was one of the first lessons I learned. The second lesson I would say that I learned in this field was that failure or no is part of it. It's part of your journey. It's not, many in the beginning when I get no's, like I get really bothered and then I just go recoil into my corner and think about it, is this thing really what I should be doing? But then no is also part of the story. It's part of your story. It's part of your journey. It is what makes you human. It is what inspires others and motivates others. There is no successful person who has not at one time been rejected or received a no from somebody else. So it is about you turning that no into a positive force. So for me, every time I get a no, my goal is to make you regret saying no to me. So I go all out, so that when you look back and say, what was I even thinking? Why didn't I invest in her? and look how far she has gone now. I should have invested in her. That no, so you can either choose to sit down and whine in your corner because you got a no, or you can decide to change it into a positive vibe and force to push you on.
All right, now let me ask you, how did you feel that day when the former president of the United States of America, Barack Obama, mentioned your name, recognizing your contribution to the African society?
Like Adepeju Jaiyeoba. In Nigeria, there's Adepeju. In Nigeria, she saw a close friend die during childbirth. She now helps train birth attendants and delivers kits with sterile supplies and helping to save the lives of countless mothers and their babies. So we want to thank Adepeju. We want her to save even more lives.
I was very, I was surprised. I was floored. It was surreal. I'm like, is it me? It was just, and it was a great motivation for everybody, myself and my team. And it also showed me something, unlike, okay, so it showed me something. And what it showed me was that he actually read about each one of us. He knew quite some very deep details about what I was doing. And even when I met with him at the White House in 2015, he repeated the same thing about the work I was doing and the fact that he had mentioned or talked about me at the presidential summit in DC the year before. So that told me, something about President Obama. Is a very detailed person to me, and he's actually very relaxed. It was surreal when we were standing before him at the White House. He was like, "Are you sure this is the president of US or is he cloned?" But it was actually like very nice. And when I look back, I kind of think that, how did I even get here? But then I understand clearly that it is the grace of God.
That brings me to my next question. So you've already mentioned it, but let me still ask you: do you believe there's a God factor in your success story?
Absolutely. Hey, when I talk to people, I say to them, do you think I'm actually the only one doing mother's delivery kits in Nigeria or even in the world? Do you actually think that I am the only lawyer who has veered off their path and, is currently doing something else? Do you think that there's actually anything special out of the ordinary, in me, about me? My mom is a primary school teacher. My dad is a retired civil servant. We are 5 in my family. We grew up modestly. There's nothing, I'm just as ordinary as you are. And it is just simply the grace factor. It is the grace factor that would set you apart and distinguish you. So for you to sit down and ask me if there's a God, I don't even know what to say to you. Because clearly there's a God in heaven. Clearly, there's a God in heaven who watches over us and oversees our affairs, who leads us through the right path, knowing that this is the path of honor. This is the path that can set us apart and distinguish us from other people. It's about finding your purpose in life.
Yeah. Let me at this point mention that Adepeju has been pouring a lot of herself out to people by sharing wise advice on various important topics that can help you to achieve your goals. A lot has been from our personal experience. You can check out our post and live recording on Facebook. I can attest to it that they are very, very loaded. Very loaded. Okay, to the last question. Do you have any advice for anyone with such a great idea but not still sure how to go about it?
I've said it already. Just start. Nothing, no condition is ever going to be like exactly perfect for you. Like I know people who have been writing ideas since like 10 years ago and they have not taken a step to actually start something. I'm not saying don't plan. Plan, but don't overplan. Don't overthink it. The more you overthink it, see, frankly, the more you overthink something, the more challenges you see, the more obstacles you see. Just start. As you go along the way, things will fall into place. And if it is the will of God, it will just work. You would not believe how well it will actually work out. But my advice is Just start and never give up. Because you get no's, you would have failed businesses, you would have people who you actually trust, saying, a resounding no to you. Never. It's okay to fail, but the only type of failure that is allowable for you is the type of failure that makes you fail forward. And so when you fail, you rise and you continue moving forward. Not that you sit down there, you turn back to where you're coming from. No, you keep moving and keep going. So that's actually my advice.
Great advice. Like I said, she's always loaded. Thank you so much, Adepeju.
Thank you very much.
Like I mentioned earlier in the beginning, we'll be appreciating Adepeju Jaiyeoba with our own little way, with a standard award. Since we're separated by distance now, I'll be sending that to you.
Thank you.
But I will appreciate if you can take a selfie of yourself holding it, and I'll definitely post the picture on the blog.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's just our own little way of appreciating you for being a great inspiration.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, and that is all for today. Thank you so much, Adepeju, for being a part of today's chat, and thank you, my viewers and readers, for watching. Do please share this post and enrich someone with this great motivation. Okay? See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.